It's so good to see you. Take your seat and turn to the Gospel of Luke. We are in the 22nd chapter, Luke 22. This week for us as Christ followers, devoted followers, is not just another week. Everything that we believe, every hope we have, every promise we hold fast to, all rest upon the events of this week. This is not just another week in the life of Jesus Christ. This is a week of significant purpose and importance. And as fully devoted followers of Christ, we want to understand the person of Christ, the purpose of his life, and his passion as well, so that we are able to follow him, able to do what he would do, say what he would say, and to live a life like he lived on purpose every day. When you look at this week, he is going up to Jerusalem because this was a normal family journey once a year for the Passover feast. This was not an uncommon road he would take every year. This was a normal process for him. Having said that, it may do us all a little bit of good today to have in our spiritual journey a little bit of tradition. I know that we're not much on that these days, especially in the Western Jesus-centered, full gospel type churches. We tend to think that tradition is a problem. We want everything to be free-flowing, and I want to just help us to understand that we can have a both-and conversation. In fact, we have all kinds of traditions in our world. We have family seal tradition. We have family sports traditions. We have lots of things we do as traditions in family. What is the danger in a spiritual tradition? Something we do consistently to remind us about the importance of our faith. Sometimes you can remove all traditions so quickly that you lose your foundation. You realize our faith is not just a few hundred years old. Our faith is 2,000 years old. You're all just staring at me. This church did not begin with the Reformation. The Church of Jesus Christ launched 2,000 years ago with the life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. We're here today because of what happened 2,000 years ago, not just a few hundred years ago. We stand today upon the word of Christ given to us at the cross, and we stand in faith. And I just want to encourage you, don't be so nervous about something traditional happening in your experience. This is why we've been doing the readings, to kind of give us a pause, make us think, and not just come in and blow through a service, but to make you remember the words that you say and note what they mean to you so that you can then build a life upon those premises and promises found in God's word. I would encourage you to learn the history of your faith, learn the power of our faith, and know that Jesus Christ, he is the same yesterday, today, and forever, no doubt, but he is a real source of strength in times of difficulty. So we want to understand that this tradition was common for them. In fact, Jesus is going through a typical route he would take. He's coming into the city via the way of Bethpage and Bethany. He's going up past the Pool of Siloam into the temple area where he would spend the next few days, and he would, of course, cleanse the temple. He would cry over the city. He would do so much. And today we're going to look at him sitting down at the dinner table. We're going to pick up Jesus Christ at the feast supper, the Passover supper, because a lot takes place that shows us his purpose, his person, and how we can practice what he did today in our own life. Let's go real fast to Luke 22, verse 7. It's a lengthy read, but you got to hear it all. Here we go, verse 7. It says, "Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, 'Go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover.' They said, 'Where do you want us to prepare for it?' He replied, 'As you enter the city,'" watch this, "'as you enter the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you.'" Now what's neat about that is, in that day and time, lots of folks carried jars of water. But this is all shaping up as part of the prophetical nature of the life of Christ. Follow him to the house that he enters. Are you seeing this happen in your mind's eye? Meet a guy carrying a jar of water and then stalk him to his house. And say to the owner of the house, the teacher asks, where is the guest room? Where I may eat the Passover with my disciples. And he will show you a large room upstairs, all furnished. Make preparations there. And they left and found the things just as Jesus had told them. Notice this. Once again, the things that he foretold are happening just like he said. You got to keep that in mind, because when it comes to the rest of the story this week coming up, they seem to have forgot what he told them about his own death. Everything he foretold is happening, including this moment right here. It says this, it says, when the hour had come, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table, and he said to them, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat of it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God. Now, let me give some pause here quickly. This was a full-fledged meal. This was not just the wine and the bread. This was a meal that had meat. Let me just give you clarity. If there's no meat, it's not a meal. I'm helping someone today. If there's no meat, it's a snack. It's like soup. And this is important. I know you're thinking just preach the gospel, but you got to hear this. If the soup doesn't have meat, it's just colored water. Come on, in the house. Anybody else tracking? Okay, now let's move along. Anyway, it's all for free. That has nothing to do with the story. It just came out. Sorry. Verse 17, after the cup, he gave thanks and said, take this and divide it among you. Divided among you. Notice those words. For I tell you, I will not drink of it again from the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God has come. And he took the bread, and he gave thanks and broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. A few more verses. Verse 20, in the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, this cup is the new covenant of my blood, which is poured out for you. But the hand of him who is going to betray me is with mine on the table. You see that? The one who's going to betray me, his hand is on this table right now. The Son of Man will go as it has been decreed. But woe to the man who betrays him. Then they began to question among themselves, or quarrel among themselves, which one of them it might be who would do this. Verse 24, a dispute also arose among them as to which of them was considered to be the greatest. Here is Jesus, a final meal, declaring his upcoming death, the suffering he will face. They have heard about this already. This isn't a new conversation. He declares his betrayer is there among them. They bicker back and forth about that, and then they pivot almost immediately to this exchange about who's the GOAT. Who's the greatest of all time? Which one of us is the greatest? Get your mind around that. You're at the Last Supper with Jesus. He's declaring his death. All the things you've been foretold have taken place just as he said, including a guy carrying a jar of water in an upper room already ready for the meal. And their focus is on who is the greatest. Keep reading. Jesus said to them, the kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over themselves call themselves benefactors. But you are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest or the least, and the one who rules like the one who serves, for who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? ? But I am among you as one who serves. They're sitting there with the Son of God. They're sitting there with the greatest man to ever step foot on this earth. And they're arguing about who the greatest is. Don't forget about that. We'll come back in just a second. Let me set some foundation today quickly with you. The Christian faith requires belief in this book. You must believe the Bible to follow Jesus. Now, I understand that for some that's a stretch by itself. Let me give some more context. The Bible gives us the complete story of Jesus' birth, his life, his ministry, his death, and resurrection, all in the Gospels, 4 Gospels. The Gospels are called the synoptic, but they're not all the complete same. They have similar but yet unique stories within them about the life of Jesus. That doesn't mean discrepancy, that just means different points of view. For example, if you and I today went to the Grand Canyon and we all stood around it and we stood at different vantage points, we could all see that it's a big hole in the ground, no doubt. But we would all have a different point of view based upon where we stood in our proximity and our level of eyesight. So to see difference in the scripture does not mean there's a disagreement. It just means it's a different point of view or different perspective on what took place in the conversation. The Gospels give us eyewitness accounts of his birth, his life, his death, and of course, resurrection. Eyewitness accounts. People who lived during the times of Jesus Christ were alive when this book was written. That means that had there been a dispute amongst the content or the context of the verses, there would have been someone there to have shared with the writers, no, that's not what happened. I was there. I saw this. I saw him crucified. I saw him back to life. After his resurrection, he was seen by over 500 people. Jesus' life, his story, his ministry had eyewitnesses to it. Having said that, anything that you yourself have never seen personally, you have to choose to take someone's word for it. There's places I've never been in my life, but I trust that you've been there, and if you said so, I'm going to take your word for it. I'm going to believe in you that you're telling me the truth about what you've seen personally, and because I have that connection with you, I'm going to accept what you say to be true. So it goes for the Word of God. We have to just simply decide, do I want to believe this book to be true? Yes or no? By the way, you can't buffet this book. You can't just pick out the parts of the buffet you like to eat. It's the whole buffet or it's no buffet. If you've ever been to a buffet, a restaurant buffet, you will look over the courses prepared for you and you will look at stuff and go, oh, I don't like that. And you might look at this and go, oh, I love that. Or you might go, let's just go right to the desserts. Anybody in the house, you just start there and work your way back. Oh, we love the desserts in the Bible. We love the promises of God. We love the commitments God made. We love the blessings of God. That's the dessert section, right? All the goodness for me, all the fun for me. But we don't do so well with the vegetables sometimes, like forgiveness, like loving your enemies, doing good to those who persecute you. Control your tongue. Did you know that you can have an unspoken thought? Pastor Mark Bergen on our staff, he shared that a few months ago. I thought that's brilliant. He said, guys, it's okay to have an unspoken thought. That's how he stayed married to Wanda all these years. I'm true. She's affirming it. Don't look at me like, oh, can't believe you said that. She will tell you. I talked to a couple first service. They've been married just under 40 years. And I looked at him, I said, what's the key to almost 40 years of marriage? And without a hiccup, he went like this. He went, he just kept his mouth shut for 40 years, and that's why he's still married. This book right here is our strongest source for the life of Jesus Christ. I'm saying that to give you confidence that if without this book, we don't have this whole story. Be careful when you start breaking this book down to accommodate your needs, your personal theology, and the things that you want God to be like, because you'll start breaking this down so much it will crumble right underneath your feet. This book is a complete work, and everything in here will set your life on the right track. As we read in Psalm chapter 1, verse 3, it will help your life be fruitful, and it'll help you prosper every day. You got to get this, because this story we're talking about right now, we have because of this book. This book right here is the strongest source for the life and the purpose of Jesus Christ. 1 Corinthians 15 tells us this. It says, if Jesus has not come back from the dead, then our faith is over. If there is no resurrection, there is no faith. But then Paul later said, but indeed, Christ is indeed risen. He is alive. That means our faith works. That means following Christ is a good plan. And that means we should never look back and doubt or fear that God is with us, because his word tells us he is. We have his promises, and this book is true. Can I get an amen today? This book is true. Now, Christianity is the only religious thought that gives you a Savior who sacrificed for you. Every other entity, every other religious belief system would come to you and tell you what you must do. Well, we just have to accept and receive by faith the work that he did. And then we go and live a different life. That's the simplicity of our faith, is that Jesus paid the ultimate price. We pay a simply dying to self price, which is probably a really good idea anyway. We pay that price. We take up our cross and follow him. That's what we do. But Jesus paid the price, and Jesus gave his life to save us from ourselves, our sins, evil on this earth, and of course, eternal judgment. Because of Jesus Christ, we are freed from judgment, freed from guilt, freed from shame, and we have the blessed hope that Jesus one day will come back and receive us to himself. And if we are to die before that time, to be absent from this body is to be present with our Lord. We have the confidence and the promises found in God's word. But did you notice this? I highlighted it briefly today. He's talking about his departure. He's setting up this meal experience to explain that this is it. This is the last time I'll eat this meal, a meal he had eaten every year at this time. This is it until I do it in God's kingdom, until there's a different scenario. He says to them this stuff, and right in the middle of this, there's an argument going on about who is the greatest. There's this tension, there's this fight. Now, I know none of us have ever had a moment in which you wondered how you ranked against somebody else. I know we've never in this life ever compared ourselves to somebody else. And I know we've never compared somebody else to somebody else. You know, I've had the joy of pastoring two churches in which I was a successor to a long-term predecessor. And I have had in both churches people try to compare me to the guy before me. A funny story, one time in my last church I was pastoring, and the guy walked up and he said, well, you're just not so-and-so. He named my predecessor. And I looked at him and I said, what was your first clue? I said, was it the 30 years or the 100 pounds? Which one really tipped you off that I'm not him? Nor am I trying to be him. I'm just trying to be me. See, our nature, human nature, loves these conversations about who was greater than somebody else. What's amazing here is they're sitting by the only one who is the greatest of all time. They're sitting by the Son of God. They're sitting by the Messiah. They're sitting by the Redeemer. They're sitting by the Savior. They're sitting by the only sinless man to ever walk on this earth, and they're arguing over who is the greatest. None of us would do that, though. That's the good news. None of us would ever want to know how we ranked in the room with Jesus. See, I look at this and I'm just amazed at this exchange because it seems so material, yet it must be very important for us to notice. Because what they're doing is completely the opposite the nature of Christ. They're sitting with the man who was the greatest that was showing how to serve, which in their mind was the least. But the important thing to see here is that because he was first a servant, he can now become our Savior. If Jesus had never served, would he have ever become our Savior? And Jesus shows us something very important in this story. He shows us that greatness is not about a position at the table, but about the posture of someone's heart. And you today in this room, you watching online, you may never sit at a table of significance, but that does not mean that you're not the greatest among us. Because greatness is not defined by position. Greatness is defined by the posture of one's heart. And everybody here today can move to a level of greatness in God's kingdom if you'll do it the way that Jesus did. Let's talk about that today. Let's talk about what it means to be great, because everything about this story is unique. And this is in here for a reason. Matthew 20, verse 20 real fast. Just turn your Bible to Matthew 20. Verses 20 through 28. This is the two boys of Zebedee. Their mother walks up to Jesus. And she says, "Hey, Jesus, have my sons sit at your side in the kingdom." Now, I don't know about you. I read that and I kind of get nauseous thinking about what it was like to be one of those two sons. I mean, can you imagine being one of those men standing there, grown men, and your mama coming up and going, "Hey, Jesus, put my two sons, one at your right, one at your left, put my boys up next to you." And I can just see one of the boys going, quit. I mean, that's got to be embarrassing. I mean, you're embarrassing me in front of God himself. Come on, quit doing that. But even here's a mother saying, "Make mine the greatest." Let's pick up this story in Matthew 20, and let's go to about verse 24. It says, "When the other disciples had heard about this, they were indignant with the two brothers." The other 10 heard about this, and they're thinking to themselves, "Who do you guys think you are? What do you mean you're going to sit at the right and the left of Jesus? What do you mean? Who do you think you are?" And then he said this, he said, Jesus said to call them together, said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and that their high officials exercise authority over them." But watch verse 26. He says, "Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your" what? Servant. "Lord, who's the greatest at the table? Lord, who's the greatest here? Jesus, have my sons sit on your right and your left side. Jesus, my sons are great." Every mama thinks her boys are great. How many thank God for moms that think their boys are great? Come on, you thank God for that today. I've had a very supportive mom my whole life, but I could just tell you, I mean, I've been like, "Mom, quit talking. Shh." Watch this. "Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your" what? Servant. "And whoever must be first must be your slave or be last, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many." All right, let's bring it to a purpose for you today. What's this talking about? What are we doing here? Jesus, at the last meal, Disciples fighting over greatness. Jesus discussing his kingdom. And a mama comes up and says, put my 2 boys in right next to you. There's something in our world that drives us toward the desire and the discussions about greatness. There's something within ourselves that tends to compare ourselves to somebody else. There's this inner battle, this inner struggle all of us deal with at some point that says, they got it better than me. Look at how good their home is. They got the perfect marriage. Has anybody ever met somebody you thought had everything together, and then you realize that they were having issues and struggles just like you? Did you ever met somebody you thought, man, that's the perfect marriage. They got the perfect marriage. Or man, those are perfect parents. The only perfect parents on the earth are folks without any kids. Everybody else is a work of God's grace and a work in progress. Can I get an affirmation today? The only perfect married people are single people. Because every marriage I've ever known in my entire life has had some days that you had to hold on to God's unchanging hand. You had to hold fast to his ways, and you had to do one of these. What is it about our nature that we're sitting in the conversation talking about Jesus, who was the greatest, yet he was the lowest? He was the Son of God. Yet in his closing week, he washed the feet of the disciples. Jesus was a servant before he was our Savior. Jesus lived a life open-handed. Jesus died open-handed. You know why? Because he lived open-handed. He died the way he lived. He died the way he lived every day. He lived unto the Father in heaven. But what's neat about this story for me is there's something taking place. And that is simply this. The further they got from Jesus, the more they fought amongst themselves. When we move Jesus out of the center of our world, we start to strive against our fellow man. When we push Jesus away, we start to have wars, conflicts, and fights. Jesus always pushed back on the idea of an earthly kingdom that he was over. So why do we try to build an earthly kingdom? Well, why do we tend to believe the lie that if we get the right people in the right spots, all the issues in life just go away? Well, let me tell you right now, the right person's already in the right spot. He is Jesus Christ. He is at the seat of the Father right now in heaven. He's your intercessor. We got to put him back in our life, and that's what makes the world a better place to live. The greatest of all time wasn't the one jockeying for position. He was the one serving his fellow man. You see, when I think about this week coming up, the one thing every one of us can do today is we can serve our fellow man. You may not can die for someone's sins. I cannot die for someone's sins, but I can do this. I can serve my fellow man. I may not can do what he did at every point, but I can serve someone today. I can serve my fellow man today. I can do some things that build his kingdom through my life. We're coming up on Easter week, and I've talked to you guys about invitations, and there's not a greater way to serve somebody than making the invitation to help them come hear about Jesus Christ. Start right there. Now, I realize you can't guarantee they'll show up. I don't want you to drag anybody to the church against their will, but I want you to work hard. Don't give up easy. Don't give up quickly. The Bible says compel them to come in because they will hear a sermon of hope that helps them figure out what God means to them today and how he can set their life free. Jesus is sitting there at the table. He is the greatest, and they're arguing over what greatness is. You know, when I live every day, it seems like more and more Jesus is out of the center of things in the world we live in. And I got to be honest, I find myself oftentimes looking around going, man, I just don't fit here much. I don't fit. My heart just doesn't settle with this stuff. I don't find that anything here really satisfies. I have this desire to be closer to Jesus, and I'll tell you this, the more you want to draw close to Jesus Christ, the less the power of this world means anything to you. Paul said this. Paul said, guys, I want to go. I want to get out of here. I want to be with my Lord. I want to be with my Savior. I want to be with Jesus. Paul said, but he said, I got to stay because of you. It's better for you that I'm here, but I'm ready to go. And sometimes you'll get that holy discontentment where the things in this life don't satisfy. You put your hope in something that man's doing to say, hey, this is a solution. And then man lets you down. Have you ever been let down by some human being in your life? You put your hope in a preacher or a church or a group of churches and someone lets you down. I'll be the first to tell you, Calvary, don't put your focus on me. You don't want to follow me. You can imitate my passion for Jesus. That would be okay, I think. But always know I'm a human. Jesus is the only one to set your eyes upon. Because all of us have had somebody in this life fail us. So what's the summary for you today? Well, real simple. Number one, live open-handed. That's what servants do. Would you open your hand today? Just right now, just open your hand where you are. Just open your hand. Would you open your hand? Would you not try to control things? Would you just trust God? See, servanthood means open-handed. It means everything in my life. My wife, my kids, my house, my job. It's all open-handed. God, I have, this is all yours, God. I have nothing, it's yours. That's open-handed. That's how Jesus lived. And then secondly, let's live our life looking upward. Let's open our hands and lift up our eyes. Let's stop looking for the day that all the things here are solved by mankind and realize that Jesus is already the source, already the peace, and the hope we need. He cried over the city because he knew they would miss their peace. Jesus is still that peace today. Let's put him at the center of our life. When we push Jesus out, we begin to struggle, we begin to strive, we begin to attack, we begin to hurt, we begin to kill, destroy, because he's out of the center. If your marriage is in conflict, put him back in the center. If your home is in strife, put him back in the center. If your career's in a mess, put him back in the center. If you look at your church, you go, man, the church is so different than it was 2 years ago. The pandemic just shifted all kinds of things. That's true, but put him back at the center. Because he's the same God as he was in 2020. Same God as he was in the year 33. He's the same. He's never changed. Let's put Jesus back at the center. Let's acknowledge that he is indeed the greatest of all time. And let's stop fighting amongst ourselves for greatest. Let's trust God with the outcome, and let's live a life that's open-handed today. Would you come to your feet today? I want to ask you to open your hands, and I'm going to pray over you. I'm going to ask you to, in your own mind's eye, just see yourself positioning your heart as a servant of the Most High today. Just open your hands like this today if you're comfortable doing so. I'm going to pray over your Father today. I just pray for every hand today in this house that's open, every heart. God, open our hearts to match our hands. God, may we be servants of you today. May we trust in your kingdom, and may we understand that you're calling us to be available for your kingdom purposes. Each one of us today can be used to build the kingdom of God. We thank you, we praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Come on, give God a praise for his word today.
Thank you for watching the Calvary Church YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. If you made a decision to follow Christ today, be sure to text CC New Life to 94,000. Someone from our team will reach out to you, say hey, and talk a little bit about what that decision means for you. For more information on our church, head to calvarynaperville.org or follow us on social media by clicking the links in the description. Hope to see you in person soon. Have a great day.